Koi, Kathy, a galaxy of stars assembled here. People like Romania's Daniela Silvas and Svetlana Boganskaya of the Soviet Union. But the American women very well represented here also.
Well, they have performed exceptionally well. And considering over the past 18 years there has only been 4 World Championship medals for the U.S. women, the fact that there are 3 Americans in the finals today gives them a chance to add even more and continue to establish themselves as world powers in women's gymnastics. Now, after a shaky start in the preliminary competition, Brandy Johnson has recaptured the confidence that made her unbeatable this last year and has given her a very realistic chance of medaling on the vault today.
Well, also working with us, the newest member of ABC Sports Broadcasting Team, Olympic champion Bart Connor. And Bart, a new set of rules being employed here at these World Championships.
And the new rules are making for a very exciting competition. Under the new rules, no scores carry over from the preliminary rounds, which means no matter how good a gymnast was in qualifying, they have to be brilliant today if they're going to win. The difference between the winners and losers, it's going to come down to thousandths of a point.
Well, I think it's also interesting to note that of the 12 medals awarded in the 4 individual events at the Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea, the Soviets and Romanians won 10 of those medals. The top 8 qualifiers from the team competition, 2 per country, will compete in the uneven bars, vault, beam, and floor exercise. First up from the USA, 17-year-old Sandy Woolsey, who was a solid 8th in the all-around competition.
And Sandy has performed very well. It's a huge step to make it to the finals, and whether or not Sandy wins a medal, the confidence to know that you are in the same class with the rest of the world is a great big boost.
Sandy told us earlier that she aspires one day to be an astronaut.
Well, she's coached by Stormy Eaton, whose attitude in the gym is to have as much fun as you can while working hard, and Sandy attributes much of her success to that attitude. Double back. There's work to be done, but great spirit for the future.
This is the best part of the exercise. After the reverse hack, she does a transition to the lower bar. Notice she'll hop back to a handstand. This is an exceptional combination as she does a free hip with a half turn back to the high bar. Very good transition.
And Sandy, who finished 8th in the all-around competition, waiting for a score. There it is, 9.8. This is 17-year-old Fan Di from China.
The Chinese have been very impressive here. In fact, have made dramatic improvements since the Olympics. Now, if Fan Di hits this routine, she will be very tough to beat. Watch this. It's called a Jaeger, and one of the highest release moves I have ever seen. As Bart said in the beginning, you have to show the extra difficulty, and you have to do it with great flair. She swings with complete certainty and freedom. And she takes it right to the edge.
And Kathy, in addition to the outrageous release moves, notice the perfect form on this tuck double back. Her knees are locked together. That's the way you do it.
Well, 2 years ago, when she was just 15 years old, Fan Di finished 20th in the all-around competition at the World Championships. She's a rising star, and look at this. A perfect 10 for Fan Di of China. And that's going to be a fairly tough act for 17-year-old Christy Henrich of the United States to follow. That Christy is even competing at these World Championships is an amazing story. Last April, she fractured a vertebra in her neck in a practice session. When she came back to compete in the U.S. Championships, she finished second to Brandy Johnson. And earlier, Christy told us how the ordeal helped to make her a much better gymnast.
I think that it's made me tougher. You know, maybe some people it might make weaker, but if I can get through those low times, then it just makes me that much more ready to go. I'm just tougher.
4'11", 93 pounds, Christy Henrich. She is tough as nails.
And her coach, Al Fong, calls her E.T. for extra tough. Now, her style on the uneven bars differs from Fan Di. She tends to move a little sharper, quicker in spurts. She pops from one bar to the other, and obviously she's very clean. Strong. Good pirouette on top of the bar. Excellent routine.
Christie finished 9th at the Olympic trials, just missing a spot on the U.S. team. But it is very apparent that she is a much improved gymnast. And there's Al Fong, her coach, to congratulate her.
She's very aggressive on the bars, and you can see in this combination she does a giant to a full turn, right to a double back. The judges award her bonus points for doing these moves back to back.
And I think Christie's going to like what she sees. 9.95. That puts her into second place behind Fondi of China.
ABC's Wide World of Sports continues with the Women's World Gymnastics Championships.
The individual apparatus is the uneven bars. This is Olga Strasheva of the Soviet Union, a bronze medalist in the all-around competition.
And she really has the most difficulty on this event with 3 major release moves. However, she doesn't have quite as clean a routine as Fondi, and throughout the competition, the judges seem to be giving the best marks to execution and form, more so than the big tricks, which is really important for the safety and direction of this sport. And that was a fabulous routine, and it's going to score very well. But at this level, the judges are going to look at these exercises as if they're under a microscope.
Kathy, as you mentioned, the judges are going to be very picky. Notice when she catches this release move, notice her legs flex just a little bit. That minor knee bend takes away from the total impression of the exercise. And really, at this level, it's the little things that make the difference.
Olga's mark short of perfect, 9.975, but good enough to move her into second place. Next up, the reigning women's all-around champion, Svetlana Boginskaya of the Soviet Union. And she won the title with performances like this one, a perfect 10 on the vault in the final rotation, breaking the heart of her arch-rival, Romania's Daniela Silovac, and bringing the all-around title back to the Soviet Union. But here she is now on the uneven bars.
And you would think those long arms and that long body would be a disadvantage on the uneven bars, but because the bars are now allowed to be so far apart, it gives her the freedom to swing through more easily, and it really accentuates her long lines. And she has a very difficult and energy-demanding dismount coming up. Right here. A big break.
We come to expect perfection from Boginskaya and are almost shocked when she's not. Fondi from China and Christie Henrich of the United States could be the beneficiaries of that mishap.
Let's see if we can see what happens after this gorgeous toe-on, toe-off. She's going to do a double back with a full twist. This is the most difficult dismount being done, and she's just short of rotation. She can't quite pull it around. That's a major deduction.
And a major deduction in women's gymnastics is 0.5 of a point.
So the most that Svetlana could earn for that performance would be a 9.5. Her mark, 9.45. And Christie Henrich of the United States senses that a medal is within her reach. Only one woman remains, Daniela Silovac of Romania. She's the only person who can knock Christie out of the top 3.
And Daniela's hungry for that title. Now, she really could be the queen of comebacks. After losing the Olympics and the European all-around titles, she came back to dominate the individual event finals. Having lost the all-around title here, she'd like to do the same thing.
At age 19, some people wonder how much longer Daniela plans to compete on the international circuit.
Her style is very similar to Christie's, and she performs almost exactly the same. It's going to be a tough decision by the judges.
Now, although Silovac didn't show the high-flying release moves that we saw from Fondi, where she gets her points is with these combinations here. Stalder, pirouette, there's the Delchev. That is a little low considering the world-class standards that Fondi and Boginskaya showed. But once again, after she does a pirouette here, this is called a Stalder, and a full pirouette, these combinations will gain her bonus points.
But is her performance good enough in the eyes of the judges? A perfect 10 will tie her with Fondi. Anything better than 9.95 will knock Christie Henrich out of a medal. Here's the mark, a perfect 10. Daniela has done it.
And Christy's saying it just isn't fair, and I think she knew as soon as she saw Silivas hit her dismount that she had lost the medal. Now, considering what we saw from Fondy on the uneven bar, Silivas was really given a generous score, at least the benefit of the doubt.
Well, Kathy, there's no question that having paid your dues in the sport of gymnastics counts for a lot when you get to the event finals.
So Fondy and Silivas take home the gold, and Donna Deverona is with Christy, who missed the bronze.
Christy, a fantastic performance on the unevens. Coming in here, I don't think anybody expected you to be that close. Maybe you did. And then it wound up you're fourth by 25 1/1000ths of a point. So close.
Yes, it was, and I mean, I knew coming into this competition that it's going to be close. I mean, I don't care what event, all around, it's every little thing counts. I came to this competition wanting to do every little thing right because I knew it would be that close. But like you said, there's probably a lot of people that didn't know that I was going to do that perfect over a routine.
But you knew.
But I knew that I could get a 10-0. And one of the judges did give me a 10-0. And it makes me feel good to know that, at least in someone's eyes, it was a perfect routine.
So a solid effort for Christy Hendrich and a performance that bodes well for her future. Coming up next, America's Brandy Johnson, as our coverage of the World Gymnastics Championships continues. Welcome back to Stuttgart, West Germany, and more of the World Gymnastics Championships. The individual apparatus finals. The women's vault is underway, an event that will feature America's Brandy Johnson, but this is Romania's Cristina Bontas.
Now, the gymnast must perform 2 vaults from 2 different categories of style, and both scores count. Bontas received a 9.975 on her first vault, had a little hop there on her second vault, and it's somewhat more difficult for her because she does it less often in competition.
Now, this vault is called a cuervo. It's a handspring here, half turn, and then a piked back. Notice a little leg separation and sloppy on the landing. You got to stick the landings if you're going to win in vault finals.
The score for Christina's second vault, 9.925, for an average score of 9.950. Now, this is Alicia Dudnik of the Soviet Union.
And she's performing a double twisting Yurchenko. And it's very difficult to land that well when you're spinning so quickly.
Most of the world's best gymnasts are using this Yurchenko vault. Notice she does a round off before she gets to the board, a back handspring onto the horse. But what makes this vault so difficult is she cranks 2 twists before she lands.
And if Svetlana Boginskaya is the reigning queen of Soviet gymnastics, Alicia is the heir apparent. And there it is, a perfect 10 for her first vault.
And what's so wonderful about Alicia is that she's beautiful to watch in the balance beam and the floor exercise, but she's also extremely powerful. Now, as I said before, the second vault tends to be a little more tentative because they've performed it less often, but she doesn't have any trouble there on that handspring front tuck with a half twist.
Alicia needs a 9.912 to move into first place in front of Cristina Bontas of Romania. Just 4'11", 88 pounds, and what a contrast she is in body type to America's Brandy Johnson, who's a little more solid, more mature. In fact, Brandy reminds many people of another famous American gymnast. Here's Donna Deverona with more.
Comparisons between Brandy Johnson and retired Olympic gold medalist Mary Lou Retton are unavoidable. 2 powerful and explosive athletes with the ability to handle pressure. Pressure at the international level is enormous, particularly so in the here-today, gone-tomorrow world of women's gymnastics. When she had to be, Mary Lou Retton was perfect. She knew how to turn the pressure of competition inward, to psych herself up and not out.
Brandy has won every major competition in the United States, and she is by far our, world championship hopeful for a medal. But it's so difficult to stay on top for such a long time. In gymnastics, a woman's career is very short. You start at a very young age, maybe 6 or 7, and you relatively peak in your late teens, 16, 17, 18. Because after that time, your body's changing, Mother Nature's taking over, and you're turning into a woman. And really, psychologically, you're changing. Take a Christy Phillips, for instance. 1986, 87, she's on the cover of Sports Illustrated, the next Mary Lou. Incredible gymnast, the top in America at that time. And she hit it. She hit that growing spurt. She grew 5 inches. She gained about 10 pounds. And she looked normal.
That was the hardest time of my life. Not going on a strict diet, the pressures of dieting, the pressures of competing, the pressures of pleasing your parents, your coaches, the media, your fans, pleasing yourself, pleasing, you know, all these people you got to please, and the pressures are so high, and then you got to be on the strict diet, and there's like nothing you can really do to get it all off your mind. I mean, other than going in and working and working and working, which gets more painful and more painful and more painful because you're starting to mature, and you know, these things happen and you just have to deal with them the best you can.
Christy